All right, back on LinkedIn with Greg Shaffer. We've been talking about a really interesting thing that we don't usually talk about on the show, which is transitioning to an entrepreneurial role from your previous law enforcement experience. And let's dig in there a little bit more. Let's talk about what are some of the things that you had to learn, which you didn't know. I mean, we talked about, now you have to kind of be the face of a company or face of an organization, whereas previously, especially with your HRT experience in the FBI, that was kind of foreboding. You don't put your face out there. You're not public facing. Unlike even maybe FBI agents kind of normally are. You're not talking to the press. You're not talking to the public. And that's something you do, what, now almost on at least a weekly basis, right? As a subject matter expert and business owner. So let's talk about that. What did you have to learn?
Yeah. Well, again, we kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. It's that marketing you have to do of your business and of yourself. And again, those in law enforcement or even in the military who worked in the shadows all those years, that's a tough paradigm to get around. But you have to, develop get a professional website. The first thing somebody's going to do if they want to hire you, they're going to look for your website. Second, get on those social media platforms, particularly the professional ones like LinkedIn. Make sure it looks professional. Keep away from political posts. Just talk about your business. But market. Again, use the people in your contact list that help you market. Develop a few flyers and hand those out. See if you can get yourself on the local news channels. Again, I'm recognized now nationwide as a subject matter expert on active shooter events. And whenever there's an active shooter event, I get multiple phone calls to speak about that. Well, the first one I ever did, there was an active shooter, and I actually contacted the local news station myself and said, here's who I am. Here's my background. Here's what I can talk about. I tell you what, they couldn't get me to the studio fast enough. And then once that happened, the other phone calls just kept coming. So again, they're not paying me to do that, but it gets my face, my name, and my company out there. It's a great way to market when you go into local news shows and talk about whatever it is that you're going to discuss. So don't be afraid, again, to be a little assertive in getting those contacts with the local media. Write an op-ed in your local newspaper. Again, goes a long way. And I did that as well, talking about active shooters, and it got put in the local Dallas newspaper. It's hard. It's a lot of work, but it is fun at the same time. And you can literally just sit back and watch your business just grow and grow with each new piece of information that you put out there. But marketing is tough. I'm not going to lie to you. And coming again from law enforcement, it's just a difficult transition. I know this whole show's about transition. That's your difficult transition. It's it's marketing yourself. It's not being the quiet professional anymore. It's being the almost boastful bravado, person. And that's that's hard for a lot of people to do.
Great point. And what do we always learn early on, maybe even in the academy, is don't talk to the press. Don't go out there, market yourself or put yourself out there to be public facing. How soon? One of the things I think that really helped and was interesting for me with your background was you wrote a book, Stay Safe, Security Secrets for Today's Dangerous World. How soon after you transitioned, after you retired from the federal service, did you write that book? Was that part of your plan? Like, you know what, I need something to kind of be an anchor for my brand.
Well, I retired in 2015 from the FBI. The book came out in May of 2019, so it was a good 4 years later. I have been thinking about writing a fiction book for dozens of years, a decade or two. And after I started getting on the media, I started talking to the news broadcasters about these active shooters and all these other things. We oftentimes have conversations afterwards, and they kind of encouraged me, you need to put this into some kind of book format. And then my wife, she's a big supporter of mine, and she says, go for it. So, writing Stay Safe, Security Secrets for Today's Dangerous World, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, but it was joyful work. The first couple of chapters, the first chapter is survival mindset. The second chapter is situational awareness. And I preach to all, every time I do a seminar or or talk at a conference, I stress that survival mindset and that situational awareness. If you have those two things, chances are you're going to be able to avoid most critical incidents. We talk about how evil exists and how most people truly don't understand that. One of the statistics I throw out there in my presentations are there are 7.5 billion people on the globe. Conservative estimates state that 5% are sociopaths, psychopaths, and stone cold killers. Now that's pretty good. That means 95% of the people out there are good citizens.
Right.
But what is 5% of 7.5 billion? Well, the number is 375 million. That's the population of every man, woman, and child in the United States and Canada combined.
Yeah.
We always say, it's a small world. Well, is it small enough that you may think that you might run into one of these 375 million sociopaths, psychopaths, stone cold killers in your lifetime? I think the chances are pretty good. And evil exists, and most people have never been a victim of violence, which is fantastic. But do you have a plan for when violence does visit your life? I mean, everybody walks around. We wear a seatbelt when we drive. We have airbags in our cars. We have life insurance, health insurance. We lock our doors at night. We have a fire extinguisher in the kitchen. We have smoke detectors in our home. We do all these things for when bad things happen. But do you have a plan of action in case really, really bad things happen when violence comes into your life? Most people don't. That was kind of the strategy behind me writing my book. I wanted people to understand that evil exists, and here are some of the things you can do to help prevent evil from ever visiting you.
This is a great point. I mean, this is what we're trying to express to folks is if they're interested, especially in transition into a consulting role or to an entrepreneurial role like your own, is find, or I should ask, to you, was it find that a thing, a topic, a specialty, an area that you can really focus on and then focus on it? Is that what your strategy was as well? Is just kind of looking for the one thing that you really could provide a lot of valuable service to?
The Shaffer Security Group, SSG, has kind of transitioned itself a little bit. When I first got into this business, my focus was more on the tactical training side, using my expertise from the FBI HRT, train police officers and EP teams on how to be better tactically. It's transitioned more into special event security planning and consulting. I was fortunate enough to be chosen by the SAC in Dallas to head up the security for the Super Bowl that was held here in 2011. So we had the Super Bowl, NBA All-Star Game, NBA World Championship, and the World Series all within 2 years. And I worked with those organizations to develop the security plan for the entire federal component. That's a heavy lift. So I recognized that I had this expertise in this very special field of special events, and that once I started marketing that, then the contracts started coming in, because that niche is very narrow and it's very hard to find somebody who truly has special event security experience. So SSG now has transformed itself, and we really are recognized more of a special event security consulting company, as well as an active shooter response training company.
Great points. And you also work with clients, and so or clients that are like CSOs, heads of security. One of the things that we're kind of talking about off air is how do you communicate with those folks about your services, and how one thing we don't want to do, I think, as consultants, I'll just speak frankly, is to minimize or to make our clients look like they don't know what they're doing. How do you communicate with your clients so that they feel comfortable and they feel like, okay, SSG's going to come in here and they're going to make me look better, and they're going to make our program better, and in turn make our clients or our customers safer? How do you do that? How do you get around that?
It's definitely a soft shoe approach. You're absolutely right. Ego's getting away a lot in this world. Having an outside expert come in, you have to tread very lightly. And what I tell a lot of my clients when I get into those C-suite executives, I tell them, listen, one of the opening statements I make to your people is that they should feel lucky to work for a firm such as this firm here, because they brought in an outside expert, me. They're paying me good money to teach you how to be safe. They care about you. By bringing in an outside expert, it shows the employees that the management cares about them. Now, and that rings true. That kind of gets the wheels running a little bit when I take that approach. But the hardest part about security is trying to show that ROI, that return on investment, and for a CSO or CEO, to look at, well, I'm spending all this money on security. What am I getting out of it? Nothing happened. Well, that's what you're getting out of it. Nothing happened. There are no losses. The fact that there are no losses is your return on investment. But that's not what most CEOs and CFOs and all the C-suite executives. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for that monetary value to show that what the money they put in has resulted in additional money coming in. And the ROI on security is very difficult to show.
So for our transitioners at home who are watching this, just knowing your craft coming out of the Gov or out of the military, that's important, but also understanding how business gets done. I mean, you hit some great points there about return on investment and understanding what is the goal of security, but to make sure nothing happens, right? And so my transition I've talked about before, when I first landed in a leadership role, it was, well, I think we need to do X because of my training and experience as a federal agent doing this all around the world. And there was immediate pushback, and I had to learn, like, oh, I need to understand their culture first, and I need to understand how they talk, and then kind of mirror that back to them. And so it's a totally different way of communicating. You don't communicate with your government counterparts that way. You don't communicate with your constituents that way, maybe coming out of law enforcement. So last question for you. How do you deal with failure? As an entrepreneur and former FBI agent, how do you deal with failure?
Well, I guess I'm going to steal a line from Jocko Willink, the author of Extreme Ownership, former Navy SEAL and Task Unit Bruiser. He says, if you fail, good. Because when you do fail, that's the greatest learning tool ever imaginable. So learn from your failures. And, and when you fail, as we say in my world, fall forward. So fail forward and not fail back. And just take that failure and look at it as a great opportunity to learn something. And now you can avoid that same mistake next time. So if you fail, good. You look how much you learn by failure. So, stare it straight in the eye, give a little grin, and press forward. Stay in the fight.
This is a great way to leave it. Greg, thank you so much. I know your time is valuable. And to folks who are watching at home, share this with your partners. Don't go it alone. Make sure you're commenting on these, and ask us questions in the comment section as well. We'll answer them. Okay, Greg, thank you so much, buddy. Semper Paratus.
Semper Paratus.